The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Coturri, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Ooh. It's an old bottle, John.
That was very
Jack
interesting.
Sporer,
1998 Ravenswood, beautiful. What vineyard?
It's getting older by the minute. It was a lot less old when we tried to sit down for this podcast.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Winemakers. I'm John Myers with Bart Henson today. Brian Casey is somewhere chasing down a bottle of wine, I think. And Sam Coturri, Phil Coturri, Isabel Gassier, welcome back.
Thanks
Again,
for having me.
As always, James Jr. hanging around. Jack Sporer hanging around also.
Howdy.
And
Nothing personal, James.
it's Halloween.
It's Halloween.
Man. Yeah, and you're dressed as a dinosaur.
I am a Western fence lizard, California blue belly.
California fence lizard.
Yeah.
Your belly's not too blue though.
I have a blue white bark workwear apron that this brilliant idea was not my own.
I mean, I will say you do look fierce.
Yeah.
Who might have come up with that, Sam?
Safeway expansion?
No, that's a newt.
Newt Gingrich. Gingrich.
I have new. Yeah, that went right over Isabel's head.
Yeah, I don't have the reference.
Thank God.
Yeah. They stopped the expansion of the Safeway because of the newt living under where they were going to build it.
I don't know what a newt is.
It's a newt?
Imagine a very small Sam right now. That's a very...
A newt
An endangered Sam.
is a reptile that is amphibious.
Aquatic.
Yes.
It's
an amphibian.
Yeah.
And it breeds on land, I believe.
Like a
And they
half frog, half lizard.
And they're not fierce.
No.
but
California
they
fence
but
lizard.
they have
Like Newt Gingrich.
a guttural chuckle.
Yes.
That scares the shit out of you when they do it.
Right.
But I can't.
I can remember it from summer camp.
Best impression, Phil.
Well, Isabel, I have to ask you first. How is the season and harvest and everything going in France? What's going on? I hear you were a little luckier than some of the country.
Yes, the season was challenging and intense. We got a lot of rain in the spring, so being organic and having such mildew pressure means no sleep, lots of sprays, getting in whenever you can. And luckily, we didn't lose any crop. So we, got out of there alive.
Now,
Great.
we didn't lose any as opposed to a lot of those who did.
Unfortunately, a lot of people did lose a significant amount of crop, especially like in places like Bordeaux. And then
From the rains or...
from mildew,
Okay.
downy mildew. Right. Yeah. Basically what happens is the fungus develops on the rachis, on the grapes, and then it dries out the grapes, and so you end up with a cluster with very few berries on it, and so you lose a significant amount of your crop at that point.
Which is different than stem narcosis.
Yes.
The stem necrosis usually is used to is usually linked to a deficiency.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to the...
So like potassium deficiency on cab will cause that
Right.
a little bit.
Well, in a lot of the stem necrosis, that there's a lot of theories on why it occurs. I mean, there really are.
Right.
Says the grower.
Right.
But potassium.
It's not my fault.
and it doesn't happen on a yearly basis.
Right.
And downy mildew is a mildew, thank God, that we don't have to deal with here.
Yet.
But there has been instances where it has occurred out in the Russian River area.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot different than dealing with powdery mildew.
Right.
What was that you opened, Sam?
That was a unicorn. We'll just leave it there.
All right. So the rest of the year went okay for you guys?
So then the summer,
Unicorn.
the summer was pretty darn hot. We got like 3 weeks of heat wave, but because of how much rain we got, the vines had plenty of water to transpire and cool down, so there wasn't any real impact. It was a late season, really nice acid on our whites and rosés. The reds took a long time to ripen.
Just because you didn't have the degree days, the sun, or at that point ripening, or
it was just really strange. The skins ripened a lot faster than the aromatics did, which is really uncommon. So, if you tasted the berries and chewed on the skins, you felt like, okay, it's ready to go, but it tasted like basically nothing. And so we had to wait for the aromatics to kick in.
how long did that take?
After the skins were ready, it took like a solid 10 days or something for the aromatics to be ready.
This feels very similar to kind of what we experienced this harvest, where numerically and maybe some physiological indicators were ripe, but flavors and aromatics lagged behind.
Yeah.
Something about a hot summer, I guess.
It might be. So that was strange. We got super lucky with weather. They had predicted 2 really bad storms. We ended up having like half an inch max. So,
And just for everybody and listeners, where are your farms?
very like Southern Rhone Valley, the extreme south, in an appellation called Costières de Nîmes. So we have one estate that's at the very, very south of the appellation, so it overlooks the marshes of the Camargue, which is the Rhone Delta. And then one in the northern side of the appellation where it's a little more similar to the rest of the Southern Rhone when it comes to soil types. We have the big Galets Roulés, a little more influence of like northern wind, the Mistral, versus in the south we have the sea breeze that really comes in. So very different soil types and microclimates.
And what's the difference in taste in the wines that you're growing there? I mean, it's so very different.
So Domaine Gassier, which is the southern vineyard, has very high lime soils. So we end up having really bright acid on the wines. They have this like really nice energy to them. They're a little lighter on their feet. Very complex aromatics, very ethereal for a Southern Rhone, versus Chateau de Nage, which is the northern vineyard, is a little more hedonistic, maybe a little riper, bigger wines, more sun-kissed, I'd say.
And both sites you've converted to regenerative farming, or is that sort of spreading through the Gassier
No,
world?
both sites, but I think it's important to keep in mind that, at least for me, regenerative farming is an approach and means, that you put into place and this quest for better farming.
Quest
but
for
it-
perfection.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean
chaos.
that you're,
chaos.
at the end of the day, you have to save your crop. You have to make sure your vineyards have nice vigor, are surviving. You have to. You're still a farmer. You have to care for your crop. So the approach is very different in both estates because I'm dealing with very different constraints. So for Domaine Gassier, it's the whole vineyard is just one big ranch. And in the 70s, they rogued out all of the woodlands. And so we're doing massive replanting of native
They did what to the woodlands?
They, I guess, rogued them out. Like,
Clear cut.
Clear cut. Thank you. They removed everything to optimize farming land. And so we're replanting a bunch of native trees, redoing little woodlands right where they used to be, massive hedgerows. So trying to bring it, because we have a big, we have woods right behind it. So the idea is to do these ecological corridors and bring it into the vineyards. But for example, we try cover cropping there and going no-till, but the soils are so high in lime that organic matter just decomposes at the speed of light. So I'm really challenged there to actually crimp and have a mulch. And so I'm still figuring that part out. So there it's a lot more about trying to anticipate how to do things regeneratively. So we're planting vineyards at lower spacing, using much higher vigor and drought-tolerant rootstock planting varietals that are easy to dry farm, and bringing like huge amounts of compost off the bat. So the idea is to create too much vigor, excessive vigor, to then be able to go no-till, to have permanent grasses, and do all of that. And
establish really, really strong vines.
to establish very, really
and then
strong
sort of pull
vines.
back on them.
What are the pHs of those soils?
About 8.9. Yeah. Yeah. So it's tricky. We could.
Is that a basic bitch?
Very basic indeed. So it's a little bit challenging. And for example, I'm working on
Jokes.
raising organic matter way more through compost amendments at this point, which is not that common in our area.
Is there? So, I mean, this is something that I know Phil runs into all the time with just like supplying enough compost for the things that Enterprise Vineyards needs to do. Is there good compost supply in France, or is it just like it's not depleted? There's lots of animal ag.
No,
Or?
there's in organic viticulture in France, you can only use green, what you call green manure.
Green manure.
Yeah, we can't have any animal byproducts.
No animal byproducts.
No. And so we're able to get quite a bit by like with the, I don't know how you say it, the city. Like the city makes a lot of compost.
Right.
Municipal. Thank you.
Like the green bins that people are
Exactly.
putting out on the curb, kind of thing.
And then all the companies that do yard work and all of that. And then we've started making a significant amount of compost with our rakuses, with our pumice, with, my uncle has a fruit business. So with all of the fruit that goes to waste, we compost that as well. And then I work with a few companies in the area that have to pay to get rid of their green, debris or whatever. I don't know. And so instead of paying, we just recuperate it. They chip it, everything for us, which is lovely.
Products.
And then,
Pardon,
and then
Phil?
we compost.
Compostable products.
So I made it's not huge because the first year doing that was last year, and I made about 70 tons, which was cool. And we're trying to scale it up.
So is the reason for no animal waste, is that just for viticulture?
No, I think it's all organic farming, and it's a lot to do probably with
E. coli.
residue. No,
But if you
maybe
get it
that,
hot
but
enough.
also like
Yeah, I know.
hormones, antibiotics, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that would
yeah.
make sense. So, I mean, I know the organic cow's manure is worth quite a bit, right?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The high-grade
organic
shit.
cow,
High grade shit.
cow manure is becoming a real scarce product now in Sonoma County because of the lack of dairies that are starting to happen. No on J.
No and Jay.
By the way,
Just
Yeah.
let there.
Last
Get
chance,
out and
folks,
vote
last
next
chance.
in a week.
this comes out tomorrow.
No on J, no on
We're
T.
4 days from E-Day. Isabel's here. She's a citizen. She's voting.
Yeah, I really would love to know what they think of us in France in terms of the election.
What's this?
I mean, I don't think we have anything to be proud of right now. So we're not.
What
Yeah,
about
everybody's kind of.
Right. Everybody's on the verge of fascism, right?
I mean, we had utter chaos this year and had elections, and then the government decided not to listen to the election. It was a whole thing. It's still a whole thing. So
Frightening.
Yeah.
a little bit. So I mean, what France thinks is like they have a hard time grasping how Trump can be so popular and have such a strong following. It just like baffles them.
I think that's pretty common here too.
Same.
Hey, Jack Sporer, how are you, man? What's going on? Busy day?
We're through harvest, and that is awesome.
Are you everything pressed out yet?
Congratulations.
Well, that depends on Isabel. But everything that she doesn't control, for the most part, is pressed out and almost all barreled down.
How many tons, Jack?
244. So that combined with what we did last year, which is about the same, means we are out of space. So
Beyond.
yeah, we got too many barrels, but we'll figure it out. Wines taste pretty good this year. I think echoing what Sam was saying, we had high sugars before things tasted ripe. Some of my wines for Fresco were riper than they'd ever been. I'd never had to water back a rosé before. But they taste great, the wines this year. I'm really happy with the power and intensity on my wines and your guys' wines as well. I think everything's got a lot of finesse.
What's amazing is like the polar opposite growing season of 2023, and we have two intense vintages, and the one there was no Jesus units added
Last year?
Well, they were added by
Jesus,
Sky,
yeah.
by Jesus,
Right.
as opposed to
and
Mike Ackerley.
and this year, during that heat spell that we had in July, end of June, beginning of July, I thought we were going to have this really rustic tannins and small berry size, but the crop levels were surprisingly large too. Yeah, not as large as 23, but beautiful fruit.
Above average.
Above average, yeah.
And what I would say about this vintage in comparison to the last vintage is it's I'm not going to be pressing out in December. So logistically, that is really nice. Maybe we'll press out before Thanksgiving, depending on how it goes the next week or so.
I can't guarantee that.
When would
It's
you
a late
like to see
Thanksgiving
it
this
press
year.
out?
It's a late Thanksgiving.
When
Thank
it tastes
the Lord, yeah.
ready to press out.
It's a
hard
very
to
late
predict.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving's the 30th, isn't it?
Or the 29th, yeah.
29.
29th.
I'm celebrating Thanksgiving this year.
You're
in
celebrating
France.
French Thanksgiving.
French
It is the best
Thanksgiving.
holiday.
Turkey confit.
You having a French
Turkey
turkey?
and everything. Yeah.
Confit turkey, though, sounds actually.
It does.
That sounds like
I
a pretty good
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Better than any other rendition version of turkey.
I don't know. Turkey enchiladas are awfully good.
Oh, there we go. That's a Petaluma.
I'm going to be
Thanksgiving.
eating veal Milanese about then in Milan. So, hey, no Thanksgiving.
I think that's a much better.
I think so too.
Bill's going to be eating. What are you going to be eating?
Eating papayas and
Papayas
mangoes.
and mushrooms.
Papaya and mushrooms. Yeah, maybe mushrooms by that time.
How is the crop looking this year for you guys? Everything done? You were very happy, Phil?
Well, we still have, and Eric Bradley, if you're listening, we still have about a quarter to half a ton of Marsanne hanging out there through the rains that we're having, sort of the rains we're having this weekend.
Rain adjacent.
And harvesting it on Monday or Tuesday of the upcoming week.
For sweet wine.
For sweet wine. And, there's always this fantasy of geting botrytis in the North Coast.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
It only happens when we don't want it to.
It only happens in the Zinfandel after the first rains, but no, for we just have too much lack of humidity.
Have you tried irrigating it so much that the berries kind of explode?
We don't have the water to do that, but we'll have some. There'll be some sweet wine.
Yeah, there's a few people who did that this year, right? Tried to hang some stuff.
They tried to hang some Semillon. They tried to hang some.
But
Stone Edge,
so many
some-
times it
some-
just becomes very ripe fruit. It doesn't.
It gets right, just gets riper and riper. And it was, with Charlie Smith, every year we put sprinklers on
I
it.
remember
And we did not go out and inoculate it, but I think the only way for us to get late harvest wines is to put them on trays and put them in a humidifier.
Remember, that's what the guys at Grand Cru used to do.
Yeah, they had that concrete building that did
Yeah,
that.
and they would put them on the trays and inoculate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was their
Our next project
Bob
is Magnolia Jack.
Mignani
Mignani,
and,
yeah.
Harvest isn't long
Al
enough.
Frere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a good winemakers. Grand Cru was a great old time winemaker.
Yeah. Stanford guys, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, think about it. End of the era, like 1968, and everybody was a chemical engineer of some sort making wine.
Well, there was a lot of great winemakers.
Better
coming out of
living through
Stanford.
chemistry.
And if it wasn't for Stanford, they never would have had Martin Ray, who convinced all those engineers and stuff to give them a bunch of money, right? So, That's ancient California history.
So let's talk about the Barisha a little bit. Everybody's tasted it.
98 Barisha.
98 Barisha.
Shout out to Todd Jolly and Joel Peterson.
Yep.
For bringing this into our lives.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah. We're at 98 was 26 years ago.
Yeah.
98 vintage. Good vintage.
Good venture for age.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, this is one of Brian's like whole don't drink not everybody big ups 97 and you're out there looking for the 98s, right?
So it reminds me of 97 and 98. I remember all the 97 cabs that came out. Robert Parker was giving them all really high scores. Then the 98s came out and everyone was like sad. And then
there was that huge frost, the freeze that happened in 98.
And then the 97s kind of peaked and started going down, falling off the edge of the cliff, and the 98s were just starting to come out of their shell. So 18 and 19 is kind of my parallel, but it's backwards, where the 18s now are still a little bit tight, but those 19s came out just ready to drink out of the barrel. Yeah. And so I don't know what the life expectancy will be. We'll find out, of course. But and then those 18s are just gonna continue to evolve. So it's gonna be fun. But this Zinfandel's great. I love this. Yeah. It's still got acidity to it. It's a great fruit.
At this point, Kenwood and Ravenswood were sharing this vineyard.
Okay. And it was all the old vines at that point? Or had the Merlot and those tall vines been planted by then?
No, they'd been... Well, I don't know if the tall vines have been planted.
The tall vines were planted right after that, and I believe that little bit of Cabernet that's there was planted in 98.
Yeah.
And some of the blocks were planted that year.
Yeah, that would seem about right to my memory. Yeah. But it was just the old vines. And
that was with Pat Heron.
Right.
And...
Right, and then across the driveway was Engelbreth, and there was Cabernet Franc there, but that's all gone.
Where there was right adjacent to the driveway.
Yeah.
There is
that's
some
where that water tower was forever.
Right,
that finally blew down or something, or they took it down. There is some Cordon vines there. Now, I don't think it's Cab Franc, but it's a pretty old bad shape.
Yeah.
So you guys are farming Barisha now.
Yeah.
And we're making it a little bit at Magnolia.
Yeah.
Going through some of the 23s and the 24s in tank.
Yeah.
How do you think this compares?
I think this is super cool to taste. This morning we were tasting through some of the 23 Zinfandels, and there's one puncheon in particular of Barisha that we adored. And I feel like it has such similar texture and balance. I really recognize the vineyard. There's a lot of consistency between what was made in 23 and this 98. So it's really exciting to see that it's very much the style of the vineyard.
It's not a big, powerful wine,
and it's not super concentrated.
No, it has great elegance.
Mm. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I like the kind of like the Barisha puncheon we were tasting earlier. It is Zinfandel, through and through, and I love this variety, and I love when it sticks out like that. Even though it's probably a field blend, that's when Zinfandel shines the most, in my mind. So,
it the theoretically, or not even theoretically, it's part of the original planting, that is bedrock and that whole section.
The Parducci and Domenici.
Right.
The Domenici.
Even before that, going to Hearst and Hooker. And,
right. But what I've been told is that the stuff that's was Parducci, that's left, the old vines, those were all 1940s planted. Does that make sense to you? Because they don't look as... they have a little more of the Lodi ladder style than a lot of the stuff at Bedrock.
It's not a real Goublet.
Right.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Well,
were they young vines when you were a kid? That would be the termination.
I'm supposed to remember when I was a kid. It was way after 1940. I could guarantee you that part.
Because the Barisha is true Goublet.
Yes, it is.
And the stuff from at Valley of the Moon, or now Abbott's Passage, is definitely more.
Well, see, that's when Domenici and Parducci broke up,
right?
And Parducci had, which is now Abbott's Passage and Hamel,
correct?
And then for some reason that somebody got a hold of them, and they on the Hamel side they put in all those big tall Cabernet vines in there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
A GDC.
yeah, yeah. It was all Clarence.
All
wasn't
Clarence,
it?
yeah. And Clarence was living, I believe, at the Bedrock side.
Oral history.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds right.
yeah. So it's just some of this useless gossip.
Come on, what are you guys talking about?
Commenting on the Sonoma Valley oral history.
It's cool though, because like
that is what,
I don't know this vineyard, the
Right.
Barisha vineyard. I don't know the vineyard. I know that we're getting some fruit from it, but what was happening before?
Well, Ravenswood had it
until the Ravenswood ceased to exist.
until the Constellation debacle, whatever happened there, and the Constellation canceled the contracts about 4 years ago, or right after 2020, actually.
And is it a family, Barisha family?
No,
that lives on the
Barisha
property?
is a combination of Patricia, and whatever. She was a judge, and they were an older gay couple. That at that point a little bit under. Wasn't Barbara? Yeah,
Barbara and Patricia.
Barbara and Patricia.
Oh, okay.
And
Totally sounds like some old Italian last name.
it does.
Baricias.
And I don't know exactly the Dagovitzes bought it, but they maintained the name of Barisha in honor of Pat and Barbara.
And so 4 years ago, they called you and said,
We started working there in 83 was our first, 82. 23.
I was going to say,
I'm stuck in the 80s now. And 20,
We sucked.
this was our 23 was our first vintage. 22 was our first vintage there.
but were they farming sustainably, conventionally? What were they doing?
They were farming sustainably.
Diane, right?
Yeah, Diane was, and not putting a lot of inputs into it. There was no the soils weren't worked. There was a non-till there, but non-till without cover crops, and so the compaction, and it was old and tired. And what's amazing about the Dagovitzes, who are older than I am, wanted to go into doing we started redeveloping the vineyard. We have 8 acres of those GDCs that we're cutting. We cut half of it over to Grenache this upcoming year, because of the spacing lends itself to it. It was 8 acres of 9 acres of Merlot, but it's a beautiful old vineyard, right? Part of the Central Corridor. It's a historical spot. The Central Corridor of Sonoma Valley.
Right off Highway 12.
Right on, yep. And it borders Bedrock and Sears and whoever owns the red.
well, it should be one of the very best sites in the area.
That whole area is spectacular. You have that. You have Chauvet. You have Old Hill. In between there's BR Cone. It's
It sits down in a little bit of a bowl there.
Yeah, and there is a frost problem down where we pulled out an old Petit Syrah vineyard that was just totally decimated at that time, and we planted a white Rhone that will be getting the first fruit off of this upcoming year.
Don't tell me it's Bourbolonc.
No, we have a couple of Bourboloncs. We have Pic Pool. We have Claret and Grenache Blanc.
That's fun.
And when is this? When is this coming online?
Brian Casey retention program.
There's a waiting list going right out the door. So, we'll put you right in front, Brian.
I don't need to make it. I just want to drink it.
There's a half acre Roussan that's part of it also.
According to Wine Searcher, Ravenswood made a vineyard designate from Barisha until at least 2014. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it says there's 17, but there isn't any listed.
What site was that on?
Wine Searcher.
Okay. Well, when was Ravenswood bought by Constellation?
It was like 1819, 20.
So then maybe that's when Kenwood came into there. I don't know.
No, Kenwood, Chewy. When I started in '86, Chewy was farming it.
Okay.
And it went to Ravenswood, it went to Kenwood, and then it went to Buena Vista for their rosé program, Salmon Run or something.
Right. Well, right now we are selling grapefruit back to Buena Vista again. and some of the blocks that they got, a real small part of it went up to Deloche, but the rest of it went back to the old Bartholomew.
Yeah.
Or
Buena Vista.
Buena Vista Winery.
Delivered to the Count.
The Count was out there in his all his glory.
With his top hat on.
I can only imagine.
Count Charles.
Count Charles.
Yeah.
Fig leaf only.
Counting his money.
And what did you open, Bart?
I opened a bottle of 21 Los Chamazal Zin. That's one of my new releases. Once you ever get labels printed here in a couple weeks.
Wine?
No, not yet. Of course not.
Did your email go out?
You know, yeah, exactly. Have you gotten my email? No.
And I love the idea of it being in a burgundy bottle.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've covered that enough on the podcast, but that was a
okay. I
financial
wasn't
decision.
there.
I know it was a financial
Clearly,
decision.
he didn't listen to
label.
that episode.
Zin goes both ways. I
Zin
think
goes both
that's
ways,
fine.
and now it just goes in. Now it just goes in burgundy bottles for me.
No, you go.
You like Turley.
Don't move.
Yeah, except they fit in the wine
Yeah.
rack.
Wine rack, exactly.
I mean, I put my Chardonnay in a Bordeaux, so I can't talk.
Beautiful.
Break every rule there is, right?
Why not?
Why not? The rules are made to be broken.
Did you guys already talk about your dinner?
No.
Okay, I kind of want to hear about it. We were, we had.
Jasmine gave rave reviews.
Okay,
Yeah, the food was.
was it someone that was on the podcast that was talking about it? And we said we wanted to. Tristan and I still wanted to go. We wanted to get tickets, and then it was sold out. And then there was a couple sitting in here the other day that said we're going to Glen Ellen Star for dinner tomorrow night. They said we're going to some winemaker dinner. They had no idea who you were because you told me it was all wine club members. But these people had no idea who you were. They just knew they were going to.
But now they're wine club members.
Yeah.
Probably so.
I mean, it went great. The food was, as always, amazing. It's funny. It was almost all people that have either they're either podcast listeners or been to the tasting room and stuff. So I kind of teased that I wasn't going to do anything but eat and have them all talk about me while I was there in the room.
How did that go?
Nobody got up and said anything, so it was perfect. And my mom was there, so that was fun. Anyway, yeah, it was great. Thank you to the Glen Ellen Star.
And then I'm trying to figure out how I can get over to see Jack on November 9th, I think, at Street Social.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
If you don't know Street Social, you're tripping. They are probably my favorite restaurant in Petaluma, a mom and pop shop. Literally, Marjorie's front of house. Javon is the chef.
Kids, they're not mom and pop.
No, they
They got kids.
They got kids.
They got kids.
They do,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
They have
Yeah.
time to have kids.
Well, they're so cool. They're open Monday through Friday most of the time. Yeah.
Spend the weekend.
Yeah, but they're opening on a Saturday for us to do, and it's more casual. So you don't, it's not like a paired dinner. You go in, you can order what you want, you can walk out with bottles.
Jack goes from table to table.
Jack
pouring
Yeah, I'll
wine.
schmooze you for sure. It's
You
gonna
did
be-
one a couple of years back, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was their food really elevates the wine, and I think my winemaking has maybe improved over the last few years. So I'm really excited to see how everything goes together now, and really pull out some heavy hitters. We'll see.
Whoa, what does that mean? Heavy hitters for Fresco.
He's going to bring some À Deux Têtes.
Yeah, I got a couple shiners. I'll just put my label on them, and nobody's gonna know.
À Deux Têtes Shiners. That's kind of a cool concept. I like that. And speaking of restaurants, has anybody ever seen the station open?
Golden Bear Station?
Yeah, I mean, I've driven by it a million times.
hear
I've
they've
never
got a
seen
great
it
burger.
open. Just never seen it open.
Go read the review.
Okay.
The review?
You have to go read the review about the hamburger.
One?
Yeah.
It's a long story. Somebody.
No, well,
More
I'm
militantly
going on
gluten-free.
Sunday, so it's going
Yeah,
to
it's great. It's the people from
the Animo.
Yeah,
They're doing the Animo. But
I've had it once, and it was delicious. Yeah.
It's great. It is, after dinner and a few glasses of wine, Kenwood is far from home. Unless you live in Kenwood.
Yeah.
well, I have a designated driver.
And did Ari say anything about the new restaurant pasta place? Did he put any? Was there any food items on your pairings that were like experimental from the new project.
That crazy ravioli dish, right?
Crazy ravioli is going to be at the new restaurant, and
Stellina or Stella.
And it just keeps getting pushed back, but they have a very good attitude about it, and it's just dealing with the county. And
Yeah, it's like anything in Sonoma County gets pushed back, especially a new remodeled building.
Yeah.
Because you just can't do anything. You have to figure out how to
except collect money.
Yeah,
Permit.
Pay your fees.
Pay your fees.
Yeah. But so yes, there was a pasta dish, and they've actually been doing regularly on the menu. There are plates that will be inspired for the new restaurant.
And we get to look forward to the new Edge restaurant opening here.
Enclo.
With
Enclo.
Enclo.
I'm going to
Enclo.
a friends and family on Saturday night.
Nice.
So I'll report back.
Full on sit down.
I think we're gonna sit in. There's like the fancy dining room inside, and then that sort of like side area between the main building and the side of what I guess that's a Della Santina over there. That's sort of like a lounge area. We're gonna be sitting in the lounge. We don't rate for the inside, but we're gonna be in the lounge, and it should be good.
Yeah, drinking some Semillon and Bordeaux.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can bring my own bottle, but there's a corkage fee.
We should raise a glass to Mac.
We should raise the glass.
Yeah, and we're working on a show, getting Jeff and have Phil come in here and do a full episode talking about Mac McQuan, Stone Edge Farm, Carmenet, Chalone Wine Group, basically invented computerized finance, and lost him a week or so ago.
Yeah.
Amazing life.
Right after his 90th birthday.
Too much to eulogize here, but if you go and the Financial Times article that came out, and there was a few others, just read about a full life. Did a lot of things.
One of my wife's heroes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because of what he did, for their industry.
I think a lot of people in the world of finance, he was a big name. It was very inside baseball. I mean, he wasn't a finance guy, right? He was an engineer. Super interesting. Mac McQuan and Phil Lesh in the same week.
Yeah.
Two full lives.
Yeah, and Mac was an incredible wine collector and supported organic farming. He bought the property on Carragher in the must have been right around the turn of the century, and started farming organically at that point. The turn of the century.
No, I know the 90s.
Because it was
1999, 2000.
Turn of the millennium.
The turn of the millennium. Ooh.
I started working for him in 2003.
Phil, what's happening with the old Smothers properties now?
It's being redeveloped. It's owned by a group out of Canada that are really dedicated in keeping it as a vineyard, and they're calling it Troubadour Ridge. Remick Ridge was Tommy's grandfather's name, his maiden name, and they're we made wine off of it this year, but reprieve for them, and it's a great spot. Needs a little bit of tender loving care for the next couple of years, and it'll be coming back in. So,
well, you just always wonder what happens to these properties and how they're coming along.
But before I leave, this is the Grenache of Mayacamas.
This will be the first.
Yeah, how long is that?
The first red wine they made off of it. Yeah.
They made rosé last year out of it. So this is a state.
This is a
Grenache.
23 estate Grenache from Mayacamas.
From Mayacamas.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's Old Hill clone.
It is. I poached the budwood.
Smart.
Right. Good thing Will doesn't listen.
No, well, you were there. I asked you for it.
I approve it.
Did you have to smuggle it out in the sleeves of your shirt?
They made Christmas wreaths and delivered them to Mayacamas.
Who was telling us about bringing
I think
shoots
it was
back?
Peter Mathis, right?
Is that it?
I mean, we had the Peter Mathis last week, and then opened that '98 Barisha, which he no doubt had his hands on. So
I just like that concept of stuffing the shoots up your sleeves and bringing them in.
Well, unfortunately, I do have to leave, but this isn't about us. It's about Isabel talking about, and Jack talking about the great collaborations, what we're doing with the wines down there. So it's all yours.
Thanks, Phil.
All right.
Have fun.
All right,
All
talk,
right.
no pressure.
Isabel and Jack, let's talk about the great collaborations on wine you're doing.
Yeah, great.
There we go.
There you go.
It sounds like you're mocking Phil.
Everybody
moves away.
Never.
Who would mock Phil?
I wouldn't.
A fool's errand.
Mock Phil. Is it like a mock turtle?
Yeah. Mock turtle soup?
All right.
All right. Adios.
All right, good. He's gone. Let's talk about him.
So the collaboration, Semillon.
Samion.
Yeah.
The Samion.
Samion, I like
Did we grab a bottle from this warehouse? Is there any over here?
Tristan has not made his way
Hasn't
back
made it back
because
yet.
he thought it was a simple job you were sending him on and realized that it was not a simple job.
There are no simple
Been
jobs.
buried.
There are no simple
When it
jobs.
comes from a Coturri.
No, for sure. Definitely not.
I think he got a
Right,
little
Isabel?
overwhelmed. So
Well, I think that what I think he maybe is excitedly distracted by whatever stash of wine that purchased
part of
wine that got stacked over there.
yeah, he's doing a little inventorying.
Yeah,
So he's supposed to make his way back here with some wine, but
a bottle of
We
the
have yet to see
Semillon collab that we did.
which
in-
Jack, I can tell you, I have personally had 5 or 6 bottles, and it is delicious.
Music to my ears. So
Yeah.
this is part white wine and part orange wine. 2 lots of Semillon came in last year. One from Rossi. That was made, I think, traditionally as a white, essentially with some foot treading by yours truly.
I always want to know whose feet.
Mine.
Thank you.
I remember specifically all the interns were on lunch, and I needed to get the press loaded, and I was like, I hear
Sam
that.
hadn't showed up.
Yeah, Semillon needs to be, kind of macerated or you kind of mashed up to press properly. Although I don't know, I've heard conflicting things in the past or since then. But I was
It's slimy.
fiercely,
I would agree with that.
I was fiercely foot treading, trying to get it all in. So that was
Big
just
feet, you know?
I mean, look at the size of those paws of his.
Yeah, it's
It'd be
just
very.
about-
You're very efficient when you foot tread.
I try to be.
3-4 steps, one bin done.
The first bin is fun. The second through 6th bins are cold AF. But anyway, we direct pressed that, fermented it dry, barreled it down. And then another lot came in from Bengarel Vineyard, which our good buddy Ross Kennard farms as a no-till dry farm vineyard that was grafted over from Primitivo to Semillon.
Same vineyard that the Rosé Primitivo in the can comes from.
Correct. And so we picked that, brought it in whole cluster, and we brought like a dozen of Ross's daughters and your kid,
Bunch of little kids.
yeah, and they foot treaded it.
Kindergartners, second graders.
Just
mostly.
about the cutest thing I'd ever seen, and they were having a great time.
Yeah.
And then sort of kept it carbonic, semi-carbonic for a week, and then pressed it. So a kind of a light orange wine.
because they're all so light. There was a whole bunch
Right,
of
there
whole
was a whole
cluster
lot of not-
on the bottom.
About the polar opposite of my foot
Yeah,
tread.
exactly. You put 10 kids in a bin and it's like a half a jack,
Exactly.
But Jack, just because I actually have drank a lot of it, it doesn't seem like when you say an orange wine, I think for some people that takes on a
Right.
different thing. It to me, it doesn't at all look or taste or smell like an orange wine, but it does have this wonderful, I call them white tannin. It's like this little subtle chalkiness to it.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And then to finish the story, Isabel finished the blend with just a touch of what is in my Cali Fuego orange wine blend, which is, again, also a lighter orange. So it's,
A lighter shade of orange.
yeah, a lighter shade of orange.
Donald Trump 2016 as opposed to 2024.
Woof. Lord. I was just trying to get my mind off it, and now we're back onto it.
It's all
It is
consuming.
kind of all-consuming.
It's Bart's shirt. I'm gonna blame Bart's shirt.
Oh, boy. Cheeto shirt.
I've just stopped watching the news. I just watch The Simpsons anymore.
I
I'm the other way.
reconnected my Sirius XM subscription so I could listen to the Grateful Dead channel and stop listening to Pod Save America, which I love, but it's just so fucking stressful.
Yeah.
Even my daughter is stressed. She's 16. She can't even vote.
Oh my God. So Isabel finessed the blend so that it was more or less, 48% Semillon from Rossi, and then the other 48% Semillon from Bengarel, and then just a small touch of the orange, which is where Isabel's blending skills come into play most extraordinarily. We bottled it last spring, and it's been sitting there, sort of getting ready to go until now. Right. I don't even know if I've had it since sometime over the summer. I tried it this harvest, a Shiner, and it was banging. So
yeah, it's delicious, and we mocked up a freaking rad label.
Yeah, somewhere between the 6600 label and the Fire Fuego label.
Right.
But I can't even imagine that.
Yeah,
There's a witch in the hallway.
Witch in the hallway.
goodness.
The Wicked Witch of Norbum Road. Or Glenda the Good Witch, I better say. It's my mother.
Jack, how did you guys decide on Semillon? Was that a conscious decision, or that you just...
It was foisted upon us by the
By
vintage.
Ross.
Right. The growers got to us, whether they're named Ross or Phil. All of a sudden, we had Semillon and said, what the fuck do we do with Semillon? And that's what we did.
No, you guys did a great job, because I think some of my fear sometimes with Semillon is it can get kind of like, when I've had it on its own, can be a little like flabby.
Yeah, correct.
And this is
Like
not
flabby?
like flabby, but this is not like that at all.
I mean, I think part of it is the 23 vintage. I mean, we picked the Semillon in late October probably, and
That's right.
and it still was just razor sharp acidity,
Yeah.
and hadn't gotten to that slimy flabby place yet. And
Slimy
it might
and
have been
flabby?
a good,
Wow.
It would have been a good year to try some Botterize, to try and get some Botrytis out there, but it might still be hanging. But yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. It was a good vintage to sort of lean in and do something like this.
And then just a little tiny bit of skin contact can really, I think, elevate what makes a wine more interesting, which Semillon can traditionally be a little bit uninspiring at times. Yeah. And then, blending it properly, which is not really my skill, but is definitely Isabel's skill.
Yeah.
Isabel, since you're so good at this blending, what
She's a savant.
What do you enjoy it? What do you enjoy most about it? And secondly, what do you find most rewarding about it?
Why are you so good at it?
How?
I've sat down at
Tell
this
us,
table
Isabel, tell
watching
us
you blend before.
about your
Secrets.
imposter syndrome.
She just has some extra part of her brain that we don't have.
all came from Philippe.
Yeah.
That was like getting to shadow him, and I think the game was, for me, was to try and anticipate what lots he was going to blend together, not necessarily the amounts or whatnot. And at first I was wrong every time. But little by little, I could anticipate a little better, and started understanding kind of the method to the madness. There is a method. It's not just, inspiration. And there's, just like when you talk about cooking, there's salt, acid, fat, heat.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're blending, you want to think about things that are complementary and that work together. You're not necessarily putting together what's best and then leave what's not as good, quote unquote, on the side. Things have to really complement each other to be elevated. I love it because I get to be in the zone. It's a very creative moment. I feel like, the two places I feel like I can express myself in winemaking is the farming and then blending. And I feel like winemaking is maybe a little bit more about trying to get the site to express itself as much as possible, trying to kind of make sure, you have to make sure the ferment goes through and everything is in good shape and doesn't have flaws. But mostly you're just trying to have the vineyard express itself as much as possible. And so that's a moment where you kind of want to not intervene too much, I would say. And so then with blending, that's when you can kind of express yourself and have fun with it.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And unlike a lot of, winemaking, you can kind of trial it out, whereas with a ferment, you kind of have one shot per year,
Yes.
right? Or maybe you have two kind of similar ferments, so you have 2 shots. But usually you're just trying to do the best you can with each one. With blending, you can be like, well, try 10% more, try 10% less. Yeah. And you have the flexibility to, if it doesn't work, that's fine. Whereas if your ferment doesn't work and you have to restart or DVA or something, then you're kind of diminishing the wine's potential.
Do you do this for your family's winery as well?
We work as a team for blends. So we're 4 people at any given time working on blends together.
So interesting. Which do you prefer? Do you like doing it yourself or working on a team? Because I have very strong feelings about this.
Let's see. I enjoy working as a team because I find it really interesting to get other people's perspective. But sometimes I feel like...
well, there's always someone that's going to make the final call, right?
There needs to be someone who's going to make the final call.
Or else you go to purgatory.
I really love blending alone. And it's not so much that I don't like blending with people. It's just I love blending alone. I like to just get in the zone and just be one with the wines and just have fun with it and be my little mad scientist with my graduated cylinder and try things out. And then I love bringing people in. Like, it's very fun to do blending sessions with Sam, Phil, and Jack and have options ready where I've had time with the wines. I've kind of figured out where we might want to go with them. And then as a team, we decide which is the most, our preferred blend, or the one that's truest to the vineyard, or the one that's most consistent with the style of winemaking we like.
Well, and then sometimes there's just wines that need to make the blend, right? Like, not that they wouldn't make the blend, they're givens, don't you think? They're depending on the wine that you're making. You understand what I'm saying?
I think I do. I think so. For example, back home, we have the blends are pretty quote unquote easy to make in the sense that the same vineyards go into the same blends, like the same blocks systematically. So I know I have this Mourvèdre block, this Grenache block, and 2 Syrah blocks. Those 4 do about 85% of our Nostre Pays. And then we'll have some, we might change up the last 15% every year to have some consistency and kind of bring out as much complexity as we can. But I agree with you that there's ones where you're like, this systematically is going to go into the blend because, you do want consistency in style.
Right.
I mean, that's the...
And it's different with depending on the size of the blend, right? I mean, obviously, or the winery, or the wine. I mean, not even the winery, because in your case, Isabel, I'm sure that you have wines that you have more freedom with, where it's all about make the best wine from this particular wine you can, and other ones are, larger that you need to, as long as the wines are consistent.
You have to use all the wine you've made.
That's what I mean.
Right. Yes, you start from the top. Well, for us, we start from the top and we start from, quote unquote, the bottom. Like, our easy drinking wines are made to be kind of the easier drinking wines that you're going to drink within the 2 years following bottling. And that's going to be made very intentionally in the cellar and then blended early on.
Right.
But then with everything that goes through élevage in reds, we'll, start from the top. Some of our bottlings are only like 2 punch-ins.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of quick. And then little by little, we work from there.
Right. And then you get to the point where you get your basic blends, and then you have the ability to put your 4% to raise it to the top, right? Like to push it over the top sometimes.
Yeah, and it's funny how sometimes really small percentages of wine can make that big difference.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, the difference is that, like, particularly Syrah, 2% one way or the other, and it's a totally different wine.
Yeah. It's 2% too much, and it's just Syrah.
But then another part that's interesting to me is that you also have to think about how the cellar works and thinking about the work that's going to get done.
Right.
So thinking about percentages in terms of barrels or punch-ins, and not necessarily saying like, I'm going to do 2/3 of a barrel of this into that so that I can hit my 2%. Which, you know, if you have kegs, you can play around with that. But ideally, I try to keep it straightforward.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, the reason I was asking that
California
is
math, California public school math. They're like, let me just
Yeah.
intervals of 25, please.
I've seen you guys do it before, and we've had people on the podcast that talk about blending trials that they've been in where it's. I remember even one of them was right. It was 15 people in a room, and the one person that was just the decision maker ended up showing up late. It was like Gallo or someone, and they had already decided on a blend. And then he walks in, you know, an hour late and decides, no, we're not doing that. So it's weird having a person that's like has control over those things. And when I used to do the rosé for the Girl and the Fig, they would Doug at Marjoram would send me all the little different components, and then I would get to create the blend. But I liked working on my own. I didn't like doing it with other people because it was almost like endless. Because you had too many opinions going around the table, or everyone wanted to do different stuff. I like the idea of being completely focused on making the best wine. So what I would do is I would lock myself in the room, put on music.
What were you listening to?
House music. Okay. And then I would do the blend that I liked, and then I would make 2 blends that I didn't like, the worst things. And then those, I would take the 3 wines to the decision makers and say, okay, try these all. And I would pour them the 2 shitty ones first, and then the one that I really liked last. And then they would try that one and go, this one's amazing. And I would go, you're right, that one's totally amazing. And then we would agree, but it was the one that I wanted from the beginning.
Issa would never do that to us.
No. No, I wouldn't. It's not, yeah. I guess the exercise of making the worst possible blend might be fun. I've never tried.
Super flabby or super acidic, and then you have one that's in balance that you like, and then it becomes a no-brainer.
Right. No. I mean, for us as a team, luckily when we're blending, it's not like 15 people at a table with their own graduated cylinder trying to give options. Right. And so we work as, we're 4 people. We work as a team. People kind of offer or suggest. We start from one point and then little by little move from there in one direction or another. And there is no final say, fist on the table, no, this is what we're going to do. We do for everybody to be in agreement, because also one of the harsh realities is your palate is very inconsistent from day to day. And so sometimes you can't really trust yourself fully, and having 3 other people kind of guarantees that,
That's why it's so important to come back and try them the next day.
Yeah.
Take them home, have them with food,
Exactly.
At Kenwood, there was 6 of us, and ultimately Mike had the final say, but there was a lot of negotiation going on because he wanted everybody on board with it.
Right.
So, he would explain fully his reasoning, why he wanted to do that, looking forward, looking to how it would be done in the cellar, and looking to how the wine's going to taste in a couple months.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you guys are pros. I was just playing around with rosé, which it was all going to be gone within 6 months anyway. So it was about how it tasted now.
Yeah, it's still got to taste good.
I can imagine those decision makers they were bringing it to, tasting those first 2 wines, going, "What the fuck was he doing in there for 3 hours? What is it?" Oh,
that
there
thump,
it is.
thump,
Yeah,
thump,
exactly.
This My Comments is great, by the way. Yeah. And why is it blacked
No
out?
doubt.
Why is it?
It's
Why is
Bernard.
it?
They don't have labels for it yet.
FBI.
So that was the
CIA.
It was supposed to be a rosé.
It was they did rosé. They just
so they took
don't-
one of those and
This is
just-
just a shiner.
Okay.
They don't have labels for it yet, so they
So this is going to be a wine going forward for them.
yeah.
Possibly wine of the year.
I'm sure
Could be.
James Molesworth's favorite Grenache from Napa Valley.
Jack, how did you start Magnolia?
Well, in 2019, I was working at the facility that became known as Magnolia. It was then Enkidu, a custom crush winery. I'd actually gotten my start there in 2012, so it was kind of a homecoming. And I was there because Uncle Will was making his wine as a client. Phil Staley, who was, super nice and had taken a couple flyers on me, first as a greenhorn with no harvest experience, and then later for my first management job in 2019, he wanted to get out of Custom Crush, which I fully understand now. But it was he wanted to put it up for sale. Uncle Will and I had started my brand. Uncle Will was pretty entrenched there. He had actually been looking at building a winery on his property, and because of the county regulations, it was kind of just a non-starter. They wanted you to be able to have water, the ability to handle much more water than we would ever actually put through it, and it was just so expensive. I think they've just soured on the idea of more wineries, which may have some merit. So we looked around, realized that it's not going to be easy to build a winery. This is an existing winery with wastewater, which is kind of the boogeyman of building wineries, is dealing with your wastewater. So it seemed like a good investment. So we bought it in 2020, March of 2020. And then we had an awful year with COVID, and smoke was even worse. But since then, it's been an upward trajectory, and now we're too full, which is a good problem to have. We got a wonderful community of great winemakers, young and interesting people who are growers who are making wine, people who are working harvest and making their own wine, starting labels, a sort of a natural focus, and most importantly, an organic wine growing focus. And then all of that is backed up by 16600, which brings us a lot of fruit and comes in charmingly a bit later than most of the other people.
Whenever they want.
And so then the cellar is basically theirs. So they can keep their wine in tank as long as they want, it works out well for everyone.
Sure does.
Are they always the last to come in?
We were not the last this year.
That's
We're
correct.
up
We
there.
were not the last.
You're on the latter half, but you beat Will's second crop for the most part, which is wonderful. So,
But as a custom crush place, that's ideal for you, Will, because Jack, because
call me Will.
you, because it
Everybody calls him
gives you
James.
more turns, right?
Exactly.
It's all about getting more turns.
Yeah, turning the tank. I think on average, if you do each tank 2.5 times, then you're making a profit. And last year we did everything about 3 times because it's such a long, drawn-out harvest. And I think we're about 2.5 turns on average this year. And that allows us to be profitable because we can, use the space as efficiently as possible. And that's great because we have people picking Lodi in late August and people picking Sonoma throughout September. And then as you get into October, some of the bigger guys come in with 16600, Random Ridge, and Uncle Will stuff all kind of comes in late, filling the big tanks. And by that time, the whole harvest crew is like very seasoned and knows what they're doing. So,
Let them cut their teeth and fuck up other people's stuff before our stuff comes in.
yeah, not so much.
Tried and
fucking up,
true
but
strategy.
Sam, you're not supposed to say that out loud.
there's some truth to that, but
The thing about the Magnolia crew is a sort of the ethos of what's going on there. It attracts a set of people who, are eager and interested and give a shit. It's not just,
correct,
filling in some work until the next work comes around.
right.
So Sam,
And eager to be part of the community as well. And I
Exactly.
feel like there's this, yeah.
So the vibes in there are good because people want to be there and people care about the wine. And I think getting people to care about the wine that they're making is the hardest part and the most important part.
Well, and it seems like they all love wine, right? And
Correct.
We've talked about this before, how it's so important for the cellar crew to actually love wine and really enjoy it,
Just like
as
cooks
opposed
on the
to
line
just
of a restaurant
right,
putting food out.
right, as opposed
when
to
they don't
just
go out to eat.
processing
Yeah.
fruit.
Totally.
How come it's hard to make people care for the wine?
Oh, it's just hard to get people to care about things in general, I think.
Okay.
Or it can be.
That's why we're in the situation we are in this country.
welcome to America.
Okay.
So I feel very fortunate to have the crews that I've had over the years. people who are really interested and want to learn. You know, people come in totally green or with a couple harvest experience and leave with a lot more. You know, you give people more responsibility every year. A lot of people who come back year over year. That's been really fun to see people grow. And I'm just very fortunate to have good crews. So if you are interested in working harvest, send me a message because we start to fill up earlier and earlier.
I think you have to give your Insta handle or something for them to do that.
Oh, yeah. DM me at fresh.co.wine.
Once more.
There we go.
Fresh.co.wine.
And that's FRES.
Correct.
Fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. The H is implied.
Right.
I always thought it was like a reference to the frescoes of Italy.
Yeah, exactly. I love to dine al fresco.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, Sam, if you've got Mourvèdre still hanging for Monday, who's going to be the very last into your place?
No. That's Rousson.
Okay.
That's at the Two Creeks Vineyard. Is going to Eric Bradley's. I don't know if it's Repris or probably not Repris Texture or Pangloss or something like that.
Yeah, we're all in. I've cleaned the crush equipment. I'm not going to get it dirty again.
Okay.
He's turned down fruit in the last week.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Go somewhere else.
Yeah. Huh? Go on vacation. Well, we're still not pressed out, so that's, we were talking about that earlier. It's going to be a few weeks, it sounds like, but we're getting there. And every day, yesterday we pressed 4 tanks. That was a big day. That was about half of what we had left. By Monday, it'll just be 16,600 in tank, and we'll wait as long as it takes because that's how it goes. It's important.
That's what we pay you for.
That's what you pay me for. Saying the quiet part out loud. Sam.
That's my job today, apparently.
Yeah.
There's no holds barred. It's I've reverted to my reptilian brain.
Send that invoice.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
And Jack, you're at the new spot around the corner.
That's correct.
Bar Dose.
Dose Bar.
Dose Bar.
Isabel, have you been there yet?
I'm very excited to check it out tomorrow.
Okay,
Well, they have a
cool.
Halloween party tonight, apparently.
Halloween party tonight.
You going over there after this?
I'm probably going to stop by. But tomorrow, Friday the 1st, we're going to do Fresco First Fridays. And I'm going to be pouring a vertical of Fumé Blanc, which is a wine that nobody understands, but I think is really good. So it'll be fun.
I'll just start calling you Bob Mondavi.
Yeah,
Junior.
I would take that. Although I think it's taken.
Yeah, probably.
Fumé Jack.
Yeah.
Jack. Oh.
That's got a ring to it.
Wow. And
new Instagram
a
handle.
bit of truth to it as well. So
We're agreeing on this.
Right.
yeah, exactly. So we're gonna actually be pushing this collab in a couple of weeks.
The 22nd
That sounds right.
November, Friday before Thanksgiving, we're doing a little Trading Spaces. Jack is going to hang out here in the 16600 Tasting House, and I'm going to go pour at Dose Bar.
Looking good, Sam.
There you go.
Looking good, Jack.
And how many cases of this collab are there?
100? Yeah.
So
not too many.
Maybe you guys can sell like half of it that day.
That's
That's
the goal.
my goal.
Sell it all.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun because I don't know if I've ever poured wine here, and I know Sam's ever poured wine at Dose Bar.
Well, actually, at the grand opening, I went and poured my own wine because because that's what I do. But it'll be fun. It'll be I'm gonna bring some records over there. You guys have a turntable.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna do a little light bites here. Maybe get out the hot dog machine or something. And
Now you're talking my language.
what's it? Well, no, I mean just like I think we're gonna get a grill and
George Foreman.
the George Foreman. No, we're gonna hit up our buddies Stemple Creek and get some good dogs and
Oh, baby.
hot dogs and Semyon in November.
Yeah.
Right?
That was going to do it for me. Yeah.
Totally. So
Can we move the date up to like Wednesday?
we can get hot dogs and drink Semyon after we do our À Deux Têtes
Yes. Okay,
retrospective
that's
with
perfect.
Hawk Waka
Can we
Waka.
please do that?
100%. Yes.
So when do you head back, Isabel?
Thursday morning. Wait. Yes, in a week.
Fly out of San Francisco
Correct.
and to New York and switch, or
No,
do you
straight
direct?
to Paris.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a direct flight.
747
It's
or
comfortable.
757?
Airbus?
First class, business class.
It's Air France. It's an Airbus.
Unfortunately, not an Airbus.
Did you
Not an
pre-order-
Airbus?
Now stresses
pre-order
me
your
the
meal?
scout.
737 Max. I hear that's a
Yeah.
great one.
Wait, Air France has planes that aren't Airbuses?
Oh, so many planes that aren't Airbuses.
But I thought that was the whole point of a control economy.
Agreed. It's very.
Well, we
Very
don't have
upsetting.
Boeing that kick around much anymore, so they can't even get their patients back or their astronauts back from Space Lab, man. So tough. Hey, they screwed it up. I didn't.
Anyway,
It's the ramble.
I pray every time.
It's the
I fall on one of those planes.
it's a weave apparently. It's called the weave.
The weave.
We'll just land. We'll land the plane eventually.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, so come hang out with us November 22nd. Look for details in all your social media and email places.
And hit up Dose Bar, but
Yeah.
don't call it a. What was I told? Don't call it a tasting room.
Well, you could call it a tasting room, but I don't know that we'll ever actually achieve doing formal tastings. We'll see. That's the goal, but it really lends itself to being a space to hang out and not somewhere. It's a little less serious, a little more fun.
Cool.
Oh, I'm down with that. As I sit here wearing a lizard hat.
Right.
Clearly.
And Isabel, are you thinking about maybe possibly making a wine under your own name here in the United States?
Not at this point.
Never.
I got some Zinfandel you can buy.
Never been a thought in your mind?
Semillon, maybe?
Maybe in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So far, I still have a lot of figuring things out back home, which
To
is
say you
good.
sound pretty busy as it is.
Yes. And I still have to learn how to sell wine, which is not something I know how to do.
Let me know if you figure it out, okay?
Thanks.
Talk to Sam and
Talk to
Brian
Sam,
Bart.
yeah.
So I'm, just beginning to be involved in that aspect of the family business. And I feel like before I start my own label, I would like to feel confident about my abilities to sell said label.
We'll sell it for you, Isabel.
Thank you.
We got you.
Dreamy.
Sam, you like to sell. It's a fun thing.
I like
But it
to
could come from Zinfandel,
tell stories.
like a Zinfandel label.
It's all about stories, man.
I like to tell stories. If people buy something at the end of it, perfect. I mean, this obviously the elections and politics are on my mind. There was a in 2007 when I was following the presidential candidates around Nevada. There was a now very disgraced presidential candidate named John Edwards, who talked about ended every stump speech with the story of when he was running for his first election, dog catcher, and went to like a senior center and did his spiel, and as he was leaving, some little auntie or something grabs him by his sleeve and says, "You didn't do the thing you came here to do." And he goes, well, and his like probably fake North Carolina drawl goes, "Well, what's that, ma'am?" And she goes, "You didn't ask for my vote." And he ended every stump speech by going like, and so I never forget to end my speech with, gotta ask for your vote. So you tell your story and then at the end ask for them to. That the whole point of being there is that you're.
It's an expected relationship.
right?
They want to buy wine.
They want to buy wine. They want to vote
buy
for you.
Great, yeah.
Maybe.
And isn't it weird that that's all it took back then was cheating on your wife to get kicked out of the race?
Cheating on your wife while she's dying of cancer is.
I mean,
Yeah.
or being seen on a boat with.
It's certainly
someone.
not uncommon.
Yeah.
Cheat on your
Yeah,
wife.
it was a simpler time. It was a simpler
It was a
time.
better time.
All right, Bart, shout outs. Any this
I don't
week?
think I have any.
All right.
Check
Check
look for
your email
emails.
every day.
Every day it's coming any moment.
Shout out to my friend Chelsea. I hope she can help me finish this thing up.
Or there's a thing called ChatGPT.
It's not that. I'm not. No. I can write. It's formatting. It's the shipping. Not the shipping. It's formatting the sales pit. The sales.
The technical part.
The technical part. The behind the computer stuff.
Isn't that what Danes should be doing?
No, Dane's whole focus is graduate high school.
Oh, fair.
Go to college. That's it.
Seems like a family focus. Yeah.
Got it. Jack, you? Shout outs?
Just shout out my cellar crew. Those guys rock.
There you go.
Yeah. Michael Harrell, friend of the pod.
Sure is.
Yeah.
He's a stud.
There's like 3 people named Stephanie.
And Sam, you always have shout outs. You've got vinyl Sundays and dinners.
We
parties.
got the trading places, Dose Bar 16600 collab takeover event is the next big thing on our. I'm about to head up to Walla Walla Grenache Fest. Shout out MJ and crew. We just sent out an email and revamped our sort of web sales stuff. Got some cool little like holiday 3-packs.
I saw that this morning.
Check that out.
Great.
We're
And
working
one had a 2018 Rossi homage. This Syrah, the GS blend.
It was the Val Rossi homage, and I saw that you just had the 2019 Val Rossi homage.
my
Said it was the best one you've
God.
ever had in your life.
It was phenomenal.
Look at what we've done to you, John. From sitting at the Girl in the Fig bar,
Ordering
wondering
Silver
where
Oak.
the Cabernet was, drinking only Bordeaux and martinis, and now your favorite wine is a Grenache Mourvedre blend
It
from
was
Sonoma.
absolutely spectacular.
It's amazing.
And Joan loved the fact that it was a field blend. And called out on the label. Yeah. It was delicious. Thank you.
I did.
Really? Called it out on the label?
Apparently.
Yeah, you did. Isabel, any shout outs from you?
I guess to the whole 16600 extended family and community, it's always such a treat to be here and to see everyone. Yeah.
We talk about you all the time when you're not here.
And what she knows because she listens to every episode religiously.
Not even on the podcast. But
No, but when you're talking about her, it's always like, when is she coming?
well, that's part of
When
it
will
too.
she be here?
What are Isabel's dates again? Yeah.
Brian, want to tie it up?
No, I got nothing going on. I'm gonna go pass out candy to a bunch of little kids tonight, and yeah.
All right.
Sounds weird.
Well, in his white van, you mean?
I'm going to go home and get Harry so stoned that he can't bark at all the kids tonight. So
Wow, John, that might have been too much information.
I think so.
Doggy CBD. We can do that. It's California. It's California.
Harry has a
And Maria Shriver said, "How you doing with your election anxiety?" And she said, meditating, yoga, gummies. All right. Perfect.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Go
We
get
are-
out and vote if you haven't
Oh
voted
yeah,
already.
next next week we got some. I think we have
If two
we got a busy. No, 3 now. We got a busy week next week. So Aaron Pott is coming on.
Shut enough to pot.
Chateauneuf de Pot, and we have a couple from Italy actually.
At the end of the week, and then also
Visiting
on all those
California
people,
that we're-
they opened their
And then,
paper planes
paper
and
planes and Beyond Wine
right.
Co.
And I've been following them on Instagram now. It's pretty, like their setup is
On the river.
yeah.
I know
It's actually a tidal slough, but we'll bring that up later.
Oh, so they should
Some Napa
rename it
River
to
hate.
Titles.
Throw down on the Napa River.
Title Slough Club?
I was hoping we'd go there. Actually, the spot looks good. So.
Well, no,
Go on our own
we
time
can't.
together.
We don't
because-
have time.
Yeah, because we have 2 on that day.
Right, I know.
Unless we do it over there and have Aaron meet us there.
He's closer. All right.
All right, logistics.
All right, everybody.
Riveting show.
Yeah.
Talk to you next
Made
week.
it to the end.
Glad you stuck
20%
on.
off Dane Cellars wines. Just go to the website. Promo code made it to end.
half off of 16600.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not at all.
No.
4-letter word discount. 4-letter word.
Talk to you guys next week. Thanks.
Thank you, John.